Hello and welcome. My name is Mr. Al Waltner, and I'm the computer science teacher here at Kent Ridge High School. And welcome to you. A lot of you are new to Kent Ridge High School. We seem to get a lot of freshmen in this class. It's certainly a freshman can handle the class just fine. We have a lot of sophomores, we have a lot of juniors, and even some seniors in the class who are just getting started. So if you have never taken a programming class in your life, you're in the right place. Now, we call this CHS, Intro to Programming, and the CHS stands for College in the High School. And the reason for that is that you can get college credit just for taking this class through Green River Community College. So once you're done with this class, if you go and enroll at Green River, you can take your high school transcript, go in there, and say, hey, I took CHS Intro to Programming, and they will give you credit for this class. You do have to have a B or better in the class, but hopefully if you practice hard and do well, you shouldn't have any problem getting an A or a B in here. Now, what kind of student does well in this class? Well, first of all, a student should be good at algebra. All right, so that's kind of the prerequisite for this class is algebra. And obviously you need to be able to type if you're going to do it. But if you can do those two things, you're pretty good at algebra and you can type and you like doing math, all right, this is the right place for you. All right, here's my contact information. So if you want to get a hold of me, the best way is by all means is email. So there's my email address, and you can find that and my email address and all the other teachers' email addresses under the Kent Ridge homepage in the staff directory section. And it's just you can look by department, you can look it up by name, but you can find our email addresses. And if you could share that with your parents too, that would be great. I'll be emailing you hopefully on a weekly basis to see how you're doing in the class and have you respond, and I'll include your parents' email as an attachment or as a CC on that so they know that I'm contacting you, and then if they have questions. So let your parents know that email is by all means the best way to get a hold of me. So this is an intro to programming class. And so here's basically what we will cover. And if you've gone through this, you shouldn't have any problems. Now, a lot of the videos that I use in here to teach this class are actually the same videos that I'm going to use for my AP Computer Science class. And so some of the things I talk about, I might say, all right, here's the basics, and then I might mention, and the AP students, you need to know the extra. Not bad for you to know the extra, but it's not required that you know the extra. So the first thing we'll talk about is this problem-solving model. All right, we'll talk about, okay, how do you solve the problem? Because that's the most important thing in programming. It's not the code. All right, it's not sitting there typing out code and everything. It's getting together, figuring out a solution to the problem. So think of like a math story problem where you have to sit down and understand the problem first, and then you have to figure out all the pieces and how it fits together. And then finally, once you know that, you come up with a possible solution and you test that solution out, and if it works, then you're ready to go. The same thing is true here. You figure out, how am I going to do this step by step? And then once I have the step by step, the easy part is the programming. So the problem solving model is really important. All right, and we'll talk about different data types and variables, because just like in algebra, you have a variable like a variable x, and x equals 2. All right, so the value of 2 is stored in x. That's what a variable is in programming as well. So that's why you need to know that algebra part. You have to understand the concepts of variables. All right, and then we'll talk about some math operations, add, subtract, multiply, divide, simple arithmetic. Now there's some other ones like modulus, a little bit different, but for the most part, the math is not hard. It's just arithmetic. All right, we'll get some keyboard input so that you'll know how to get the user to enter something. We'll talk about conditional statements, and conditional statements are, if something is true, do this. If it's not true, don't do it. That's a condition, if the condition is true. All right, we'll talk about loops, where we'll do things over and over again with loops, and that's what makes computers look like they're really smart and really fast, is that they're really smart because they can test a condition, and then they can do it really fast with loops over and over again. So those two things make all computers look really fast, and they actually make the programming easy because you only have to program it once and then it automatically loops around. Okay, a major part of the class later on in the quarter or semester, however long this class will last, is the classes and objects, and that's the object-oriented programming, and we will basically just be introducing that. So you'll understand the concept of a class, creating objects, and then those objects have methods, and the methods do things. So I can create a dog, and that dog can have a method called bark. And so I can say, hey, my dog, bark, and then it would do that. All right, so we'll get into classes and objects and object-oriented programming at the end. And then finally, there's a way of storing data, just like these variables up here that are individual variables. All right, down here at the bottom, we have arrays and array lists, which are groups of them. So instead of having a separate variable for every student at Kent Ridge High School, all right, what I can do is I can create an array called students, and all the students go inside that array. An array list is very similar to an array, all right, and it's just a list as opposed to an array, and there's a subtle difference between the two, and we'll talk about that at the end. So this is our one semester class. Now, we'll talk about it later with remote learning, but as of this recording, which is early August, they're talking about having 1 quarter long classes, not 1 semester. So instead of having 18 weeks to do this information, we're only going to have 9 weeks. What does that mean? We're going to have to go faster, and it means we might have a little extra homework each day that we have to do. But you'll only have 3 classes at a time instead of having 6 classes at a time. All right, more on that later once we figure out. Like I said, right now it's early August. Everybody's on summer vacation, but I have to start planning early to get everything ready. Okay, here's the resources that we'll use. We do have a textbook, all right, and this was the old address, all right, but the textbook is going to be available in my outbox, and I've made the videos because the old videos were done in something called Flash, and Flash isn't supported anymore. So I had to remake the videos, and so you'll be hearing me, and I'll be showing you how to do things instead of our author. All right, and then there's Eclipse, and Eclipse is the program we use to write our code. All right, now you can download it from eclipse.org, but the problem is the district has only installed the 32-bit version of Java on our computer. And so the last edition that was available from Eclipse was the 2018 32-bit edition. So you can go to eclipse.org and get it, or you can go to my outbox, and that's what it says down here. So the software and the textbook are there. So we'll discuss that a little bit more in our class once we get to that. All right, and then the free internet resources everywhere. You can find an answer to just about every problem we're doing simply by going on Google and doing a search. All right, you search and I type Java and then what I'm looking for, and I will find the answer. Sometimes you got to weed through a bunch of things, but you can find it. So there's all sorts of information out there. Plus, we have another thing called Canvas. And Canvas, if you haven't used it in your classes before, you'll probably use it a lot now because all the teachers have to go online and do remote learning. We're using Canvas for that. We've been using it in this class for many years. So basically what I do is I send out daily announcements that tell you, okay, here's what we're going to do today. The assignments are distributed in Canvas, and they are collected in Canvas, and I grade them in Canvas. And then after I've graded them in Canvas, I post them to Skyward. So sometimes there's a delay between these two. So you might have something in Canvas, all right, and it's all graded in Canvas, but it won't show up in Skyward. And your parents are the ones who see Skyward, and you see Canvas. So you might want to try maybe showing your parents on your laptop, say, no, see, Mr. Waltner graded it here. It's just not on Skyward yet. And unfortunately, there's a bit of a delay between the two. But don't get out of the habit of checking Skyward also, because sometimes there's errors that pop up, and these phantom assignments show up and so forth. So as we're going through the semester, if you see a problem, just contact me once again via email. All right, and then last but not least, the remote learning. Okay, it's going to be a different kind of year. And if you recall from the end of last year, things didn't really go well with the remote learning that we did. Well, this year it's going to be different because we're going to expect you to be there every day. We're going to expect you to do class just like we're online. And I've designed my courses so that they are 100% remote learning. All right, you'll be watching video tutorials, and you'll have Canvas announcements and assignments, everything you need, and you have access to them 24 hours a day. You don't have to do it right up front. You don't have to do it while we're in class. It's a regular school. It's like you do the work in class. But here you can do it any time of day, whenever you want to. There will be online team sessions like they had last spring. All right, and on those online team sessions, what you're going to have is basically I'm going to be there to answer your questions and give additional support, maybe introduce some new topics and so forth. But for the most part, everything will be here in Canvas, and you'll be able to check and look at the assignments. You can watch the videos as many times as you need to. All right, there is a discussion section in Canvas where if you have a question, post the question, and then anybody that knows the answer, respond. Okay, you don't have to wait for me to respond, but it's even better if students do. In fact, I always say a programming class is never quiet because I want students to talk and to work together. So the discussion section is that part for you. All right, and then finally, for the tests in here, they're going to be different because each of the tests is going to be individualized. All right, nobody will answer the test question the same way because the question will require you to respond and to come up with your own information. All right, I can certainly ask you to do something, but what I ask you to do will be up to you. All right, and so that way we don't have to worry about, okay, you know, Johnny turned in Billy's paper or whatever. Okay, well that's not going to happen because if two things are identical, that's impossible. Okay, so anyway, they'll be a little bit different, and in big bold letters down at the bottom. All right, this is going to be so true this year. All right, your success is up to you. All right, you have to put in the work. You have to do the time. You're there at home. In many cases, you're there at home alone, and you don't have anybody there to push you. You're not in class, and I'm not going to be able to keep you from playing video games or anything like that. You have to do the work, and you have to get it done. All right. So I hope you enjoy this. Programming is kind of fun, and if you get into the world, you want to be a programmer as a job. The business is lucrative. You make tons of money. You graduate from college, you can make $100,000 a year and then go up from there. All right, it's a tough job, but if you can do it, it really pays off in the end. And if you want to be an engineer, all right, you're going to have to know computer science to be an engineer as well. So good luck with you in the class. I'll be sending you emails weekly to try to keep track of how things are going. And like I said, just follow along in Canvas and everything will be there for you. All right, good luck.